Vinyl records have to be the world's most inconvenient audio format. They're bulky, expensive, difficult to clean, and finicky to play. And yet, I have over 200 of them behind me. As someone who has worked in the professional media space these last few years, including as a mastering engineer where much of my work was delivered on vinyl, I find that gives me a different perspective than many other audiophiles, having created some of the work that sits behind me today. So let's dig in.
Hey. 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 Yeah, 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 yeah. Let's cut out all the drama. Vacation in the Bahamas. Couple daiquiris, pure guava. Tiptoe, flow, lava. Me casa, Sue casa, papa. Big bank account, lots of commas. Soak up the heat like a sauna. Bring something back for your mama. This one make your body go psycho. Pop that, put it on like vinyl. Moonwalk on the walls like Michael. Post that, put it up, go viral.
Before I go any further, let's define the diagnostic criteria for the test that you'll be hearing, or at least seeing, in this experiment. We're using my own U-turn Orbit custom turntable with a heavy acrylic platter and an Ortofon 2M Blue cartridge. The tone arm and cartridge are calibrated to my own specifications using definitions from Ortofon themselves. So let's start with the big question. If I'm a mastering engineer, does vinyl sound better than digital? As someone who's worked in both domains, I can unequivocally say no. Vinyl doesn't sound better, at least not in all circumstances. Vinyl sounds different, but to many people it may or may not sound better necessarily. One thing that vinyl does require you to do as a mastering engineer, and it's simply a restriction of the format, is to ensure that all bass frequencies below 125 Hz are summed to mono. However, just because vinyl doesn't necessarily sound better in the sense that it can contain more information, it doesn't mean that I don't have a reason for preferring it. If we talk about CDs, which are the world's most accessible digital format outside of downloads themselves, that format is capable of reproducing up to 96 dB of dynamic range. For reference, an average conversation is about 55 to 65 dB, and dynamic range is a measurement of the loudest and quietest sound that a system is able to reproduce without it either falling into the noise or becoming so loud that it's distorted. CDs, again, keep in mind, have a dynamic range of roughly 96 dB. That can be increased to up to 115 dB with proper use of sound processing. Vinyl records, by comparison, contain about 50 dB at their absolute maximum of dynamic range. Much of that is limited by the surface noise as the needle passes over the record and through the grooves, and the circuitry and amplification technology after the fact. The question remains though, do we use all of that dynamic range? And in my experience, the answer is firmly no. I recently compared the dynamic range ratings for one of my favorite heavy rock records, Bush's More Than Machines. And when I compared the high-resolution digital download to that of the vinyl record, I found the vinyl LP contained nearly double the dynamic range to that of the CD version. That's impressive, and it shows that we simply don't utilize the high dynamic range that is present in many of these digital formats. Instead, we crush the life out of it and hope for the best. Vinyl records, on the other hand, are a physical medium with physical limits. It would be impossible to make a vinyl record that loud without the needle skipping out of the groove. And I think that's why I enjoy vinyl as a collector's item and as the primary means of music playback here in my home. The sonic enjoyment and the lack of fatigue after a long listening session simply cannot be ignored. One of the other reasons that I prefer vinyl is that vinyl doesn't expire. Not a week goes by that I don't see a headline from one of my favorite artists that their album has been pulled from Spotify or that their streaming stats are being audited. I don't love this, and as a fan, I would much rather buy the vinyl record, put it on my shelf, and play it until I wear it out. That's probably at least 20 years in the future. All of these streaming services will be dead and gone by then, most likely anyway. So even though the costs associated with producing a vinyl record are higher, I have the assurance as a fan that it won't disappear, and artists get a fair shake for their work. The last thing I want to talk about in terms of vinyl is that art simply matters. I have enjoyed collecting vinyl records for the last several years, and I have to say, the art is simply incredible. This is the aforementioned copy of The Art of Survival, the record from which More Than Machines is taken. I love the sun motif. I love the fact that the artwork is big, that I can hold it in my hand, and that I can read the liner notes and the lyrics as I listen. I know sites like Genius have tried to give this back to us in the modern era, but it's something that I would miss if the internet was down. And given where we live, the internet is frequently offline due to construction or some other nonsense. And I find my vinyl collection is comforting in those moments because I can still enjoy the music that I love, regardless of whether I'm able to connect to the internet or not. And if you're a true audiophile, a true music fan, I feel like you understand what that's worth. Being able to enjoy your music at any point in time, regardless of whether the internet is working or not. As a technologist, I'm here to say the internet has given us many wonderful opportunities, but it has also taken many away. And this is one thing that I simply don't want to rely on the internet for. So that's it. Why I collect vinyl in 2024 and why vinyl continues to be an important format for me going forward. Is there a physical media format that's important to you? Leave a comment below. I'd love to hear about it. Tell me why you care about this particular medium and why it's so important to you. I have friends who collect cassettes and 8-track tapes, so believe me, I won't ridicule you. I want to hear what you think and why it's important to you. Straight up. Leave a like for the algorithm, comment, and subscribe. And of course, stay curious.